Hello, 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 and welcome everybody on this webinar tonight. My name is Claudia Eifert, and I welcome everybody from around the world. I have with me as well our founder and CEO of Utopian Global, Bill Rowell, he's coming on in a second, and Ryan Messer, the CEO of STORH. But before I get started here, guys, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me loud and clearly? Could you just raise your hand? That would be fantastic. Stephen, you can see, okay, Stephen, okay, we have two Stevens, very good. Great, Stafford, Susan, fantastic, fantastic. So just bear with me 1 second, they are coming on board very soon, but before that, again, I want to just give you, because we have a lot of new people on the call today, which is great, I'm going to give you a little bit of a rundown what we're going to do and expect in this little bit of a different presentation today. Usually we do, of course, our presentation and present the business opportunity, etc. Today, what we really want to focus on is the plastics. It is the Polystream project, which we're going to do in conjunction with STORH. And so we will have, of course, Ryan Messer as well as Bill talking a little bit about that today. So we're not going to go into the so much of a business building details. We're going to give you more so the overview about the whole concept, what we do, and of course, what is your chance to get involved, and of course, what is your outcome, what can you expect, of course, when you get involved in such a huge, really big project as this is. But we have a lot of new people on the call, so I got to at least run a little bit through the basics. Okay, so just bear with me for you guys, which you have been attending many of these presentation. Just bear with me for a little while, while I of course walk through the first steps of this presentation. So as you see here, the time to get in is now, to own real assets, to certainly make a real income and have a better lifestyle. Don't we all want that? Yet sometimes it is not so easy, especially with this environment and this crazy markets and coronavirus and economy slowing down and China almost at halt, and all those things which I think we certainly didn't expect in this new decade to happen. So I know very much, of course, over here in Germany, we have lots of people from New Zealand, from Australia on the call, from United States on the call. We feel it. So you feel it in terms of you go out and your supermarkets are empty. They do all those shoppings and things, and everybody is getting a little bit crazy. And that is what the message really had been also sent out when we sent this out to our email list. What's really going on, but what's the underlying symptom really is the underlying symptom, which is, of course, most of the economies, they're not actually growing as they report us. So the global GDP everywhere in the world is not really growing. So yet money printing press is going on and going on. And of course, most governments are in very high debt, as well as households. And so everything which is being showed to us, and the coronavirus is just now a top on to what may obviously can cause or can become now this huge crash, which somehow after such a long 12-13 years of bull run can very likely now happen any moment, could be in years, we just don't know. Fact is, we are living in a stark financial and a crazy environment. We have imbalanced global financial system. I think it's just like a handful of people who basically own the world, who make more money than the rest of the world. We have rising government debts, as I said, and we have a huge global plastic and environmental crisis. In fact, any newspaper you open, any television or whatever, I mean, everywhere you go, I mean, I go down here in my shop, in my little community, and you see there, March for Friday for Future, this, there. I mean, it's just everywhere. Everywhere you're now exposed to what certainly is a huge difference this year, just this last 3 months, or this, we are now in the third month, then just last year, it's just very crazy in that sense a little bit. I mean, it's so important to look after the environment, but it's also very much into your face right now. And at the other hand side, of course, we have a high consumption. I always talk about that high consumption, meaning like we are more people. So we're growing, the population is growing. And that is, of course, is a problem. And so when we look at our global financial system, which is really out of balance, and that this wealth is really concentrated in a small percentage of this population, and global currencies are losing half of the purchasing power every 10 years. So the company which I'm presenting here right now is already in existence 12 years. So would you have done what we have been saying, you would be very much well off now, because if you just would have put yourself on a savings plan, an asset accumulation plan, dollar cost average, and of course the saving gold or silver. So global currencies are losing their purchasing power every 10 years, and people work longer and harder just to really ever make ends meet. And for millions, really a single financial emergency can actually mean a disaster already. And it's even worse. Many of us face retirement crisis, the pensions, they're in peril, with governments in huge debt, as I said. And beyond, of course, all those financial problems is, of course, this environmental crisis and this global resource consumption, which really never has been higher. And a demand, of course, is just unsustainable levels. And so the plastic crisis alone, of course, when you look at it, grows as hundreds of millions of tons of really unrecyclable trash are in our oceans and our waterways and cityscapes worldwide. And this only is going to grow. So we need more plastic. Plastic is not going to stop. So even though we save on our straws, and like in Kenya, they forbid the plastic bags. I mean, here in Germany, you still get plastic bags, but you have to pay for. But still, that is really great, but we still will need plastics. Yeah, I'm talking through a computer with you, which has a lot of plastic components. So plastics is in growing demand. And of course, in order for us to really usher in a better future, well, we have to address the negativities of legacy energy production, remediate, of course, this environmental damage, and of course reclaim those finite resources. And we have to explore all those alternative sustainable sources of energy. And we have to search, of course, for secure ways of boosting incomes through what? A reliable income generating assets. And how? Well, like always, in generations before, the answer really lies in the same drivers in the human process for thousands of years, in the upside opportunity. Is there an upside? Can you see an upside with what we have? And of course, in a new vision for a future. And I believe everybody on the call today, well, would like to live in a more cleaner environment, don't you? Everybody on the call, I believe, would like to have an extra income, to make a little bit more money. And I believe everybody in general is interested in basically having a safe environment, obviously a clean environment, not wasting too much plastic. I think everybody wants that. So the solution lays, of course, the solution what we have here is really in what Ryan Messer's going to explain in a little bit, in the technology which we're going to present of Polystream plastic to fuel, a technology which is out there already since 30 years. But of course, as Ryan always says, as long as oil is cheap, why invest? And this is really has been a common theme. Why doing something which costs way more to do? And but of course, again, we are progressing, we are advancing, things are changing, and things becoming more profitable. So the Utopian Global system, what we do here at Utopian Global, is simple. We provide you a platform where you can accumulate real assets, such as assets in STORH, which STORH invests in different projects like Polystream, like what we're gonna present, and you can diversify your income. You can diversify your cash. In gold or silver, and we have been doing this since 12 years. Why should you do that? Well, you just learned before, every 10 years loses half of its purchasing power. Okay, so why not doing it? And of course, education. We have great education as well here. Always new stuff, things which are not going to be certainly taught in school or in universities. And we have the possibility for these people who say, you know what, I like what you do. I want to market and become a marketer, your products and services, and we'll make some money. With that, absolutely, we have this as well, this possibility. Why marketing? Well, we got it. We need you. We need marketers. We need marketers to promote our message, our opportunity. Why? Well, obviously to raise funds so that we can do all these projects, that we can build those plastic pyrolysis, plastic to fill plants. So of course you benefit, but also the environment does actually benefit from it. So precious metals, I have been talking about it a little bit. We have been doing this since 12 years, giving you a platform that you can put some of your money or even your commissions if you're marketing the products and services in precious metals. Why? Well, because they maintain its purchasing power. And we have a very great platform where it's very easy 24/7. You can purchase your precious metals. You can sell it whenever you want to sell it. You can just hold it in the secure vaulting. You can have it shipped if we can ship to your country. So all these things we have in place for you, which is fantastic. It works fantastic like a Swiss clock. It really is absolutely amazing. And with that, now I believe I have the founder and CEO of the call on the call. If that is the case, Bill, are you there, or is it me thinking that you are on the call? Because I don't see any picture yet.
Well, my picture's not so important, Claudia, but anyway, great to be here on the call. Sorry, I'm a little bit late getting back from the business lounge, but all good. Yes, I think Ryan's joining us as well, correct?
Absolutely. Ryan is also joining us. Of course, he's really super busy, but he is there joining us. I just have to check if he has the right link. But yes, so basically, I went a little bit through. So for the new people, and I know you and Ryan are going to talk about the Polystream plastics to fuel. So I'm just going to check in where he is to come on board right now. And meanwhile, you're going to talk a little bit about Ryan and of course your experience with Ryan, and of course a little bit about the project, and be showing a very short video.
Sure. Well, before we do that, I just came out of a meeting a couple of hours ago now. Actually, I met a very interesting businessman. I'd say would be mega successful in the process of building a $150 million plant in the mining industry. In fact, he's going to be doing he's going to be mining in another country. Raw material will come here to Dubai, and he'll do the manufacturing for many reasons. Of course, one of them's taxes, one of them's labor costs and different things. But he was also involved in solar. He's very much involved in solar panels and different things like that. In fact, he just sold a 3 megawatt solar farm, and was asking him about, okay, why did you sell? Why sell your renewable energy right at this particular point? And he said, well, actually, solar has actually slowed right down. It's not growing. Which was really interesting from his perspective. And when I showed him the video, which you'll be seeing shortly here, of what Ryan has been sorting and going through various companies around the world to this particular company, which has been doing it for 25 years, he was really excited about doing this. He said, I'd love to be involved in this particular project. So tomorrow I'll have another meeting with him. So the timing for this particular project is absolutely perfect. And while many people on this call, including ourselves, have been engaged for, you may feel, a long time, in business, this is not a long time. We have the basics in place now. People are learning about us. People are knocking on our doors now. So we're coming into a very exciting phase. And for all you people who have been involved with us since the beginning, well, you've benefited because you got in at a discount price. And it's still discount today, as you'll see as Claudia progresses through the actual presentation. But I've known Ryan Messer since 2004. In fact, I was introduced to him by the bullion banker Philip Judge in 2003. And in 2004, I flew to Louisiana in the USA, Baton Rouge actually, where I met Ryan and his team. I was impressed by his team, his commitment, his passion. and total enthusiasm. And I was investing into an energy fund. And before I invest, I want to know who I'm investing with, because after all, it's the people that manage your money. And I liked it so much, I actually put quite a significant amount of money into this particular energy fund. And when I saw these strange pumps working 24/7, I thought, this is really a no-brainer. At the moment, I'm a consumer to energy, and to be able to position myself on the supply side is really it's a common sense and smart thing to actually do. It took some time to get going, but it was fantastic. I was involved with that many years, and of course I know, Claudia, that I introduced you to it a couple of years later, and I think you got involved maybe in 2006. So the important part about people coming to this call for the very first time, you can see there's a long-term relationship here. This is something just like a new idea popped in your head. No, the business relationships have been around for a long time. The experience of Ryan Messer now has 2 decades, much more experience than when I even met him. I think he's actually drilled over 200 wells in the natural resource sector, which is really amazing. So he knows what it's like to manage companies, manage public companies as a CEO, and even take a private company to a publicly listed stock exchange, which is what our intentions are as well. So it's important to have this experience at the helm, and so it's been a great working relationship and great friendship we've developed over many years. And oh, Ryan's here now, so I'll stop talking nice about him because he's here. And great to have you on the call, Ryan.
Sorry, what was the question?
No question. I said it was great to have you on the call, actually.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, always great to be on these calls. I love it.
I was just saying that.
I was able to hear you, so I heard all those great things you had to say about me.
Okay, I was just saying that our relationship goes back. Actually, the common denominator is actually Philip Judge, the bullion banker, who's down in the middle there at the bottom. He connected me. He was the person I met in Switzerland, and he's the one that connected me to Ryan in 2004. And of course, I met James Stewart, the geologist, back in 2004 as well. And we had the pleasure of meeting Jay last year as well. And of course, we have Randall Eddington. Some of you on this call have met Randall. He heads up the midstream operation. Very, very smart guy. He's a bit like a chemist. He's the mixer of the different discounted crudes to give it to the right standard so we can sell at maximum price. Also, some of our team on this call met our lawyer in Houston, Texas, Mike Biglio, on the bottom left-hand side. Really important, because you don't have the legal foundation correct, it can destroy the future plans. So by having our documentation and our compliance all in place, means that you guys have true ownership over these assets. But with that, Claudia, I'm going to pass it back to you so we can get to the core parts of the presentation, and then of course bring Ryan in when you want to.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Ryan, for being on the call. Yes, so the main focus, of course, on this call is here talking about plastics, which is, of course, a huge problem. And, of course, what you, Ryan, with your genius idea, you know, this English twisting. I just came off a Spanish call before I came off a Portuguese call, so my head is mixed, so excuse me. So sometimes it's hard to talk 4 or 5 languages. Anyhow, of course we know most of it's not recycled, and what the theme is really, what if we could make plastic valuable again? Now, as we have said in many calls prior to that, you are, of course, your specialty is the oil and gas, but you were exposed to pyrolysis oil, meaning you were asked by a company to actually see if you could actually refine that, if it had any valuable, that oil. And this is really how everything came together, that we are today at this amazing project, that's amazing really project with pyrolysis, in the process of building a pyrolysis plant, because you have then done all your work and all your research, which you always do the last 2 years with Randall together, and you have, of course, processed this oil, and you have enhanced it in value. And of course, you know that there is money to be made, but not only money to be made, obviously, also it's an amazing environmental course, really what we are here trying to do. And of course, in order to make this environmental course happening, we need you, we need everybody, in order, of course, to fund this project. But of course, Ryan is going to talk a little bit in a second after I show you the video, how of course, this is going to work. So first of all, I want to play a very short video, actually 2 little videos for you guys, so you have a little bit of an understanding.
Warning, this planet contains plastic. Plastic is an addictive convenience that every human consumes on a daily basis. The invention of plastics were meant to make this world a better place. Today, that very intention is destroying us with more than 150 million tons of plastic waste in our oceans, rivers, and streams. Innovation is about to change the world, moving us all forward. Isn't it time we change the way we dispose of plastic? At Polystream Technology, we push the possibilities of recycling plastic, making it valuable again after its initial purpose has been realized. Taking yesterday's garbage and turning it into a valuable fuel through our signature pyrolysis process. This processed fuel is then integrated with our current midstream supply chain. That integration increases the efficiency and profitability of the end product as it meets the ever-growing energy demand. It's time we make plastic valuable again and the world a better place. Polystream. The perfect solution is here.
So Ryan, tell us a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about the project. Tell us a little bit more what, of course, it is in for the people, because that's really always the case. What is in for us? If we're gonna, of course, participate in that amazing project, what's gonna be in it for us? What are you gonna do with it? So up to you, and Bill, of course.
Why don't you play this
thank
video?
you. Oh, sorry, real quick. I was just gonna say, there are only a few things that you can do with most of the plastic in the world. The type of plastic most of us are familiar with, well, probably familiar with most of the different types, but plastic bottles, that is what's called type 1. There you go, Bill. Those can be recycled in a more traditional way, where they can be reformatted essentially, or repurposed, so broken back down, not through pyrolysis. Most of the other plastics, like commercial plastic containers, plastic films, plastics basically 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, with the exception of plastic type number 3, which is PVC, because it has chlorine in it, need to be recycled in 1 of 2 ways. They can either be incinerated, right? So basically they're burned, and that exhaust is cleaned through a whole bunch of scrubbing mechanisms, and that heat that's created by actually burning it heats water, which creates steam, which moves a turbine, which goes to essentially create power. Those plants are 100 million plus in terms of capital expenditure. Or you can push a technology more to the edge, more of a decentralized type of structure. Push the technology towards the problem, and that's what we're creating with Polystream. We're using a process called pyrolysis. You see it there. So we basically apply heat without oxygen, so it does not burn, but it breaks down those complex plastic carbon chains back into very simple ones, the simple ones that created it in the first place. So you create a pyrolysis oil, which everyone's very familiar with crude oil. It's very much a similar type of product, or kerosene, various types of gasolines, and other types of products that can be distilled through the process. And those projects are, in the $15 to $20 million range to process something, say, the size of this project here that you see below. That was a 60-ton plant that was built using the same type of technology that we're going to be using. So those are really the only 2 solutions. And so our solution is, again, can be pushed out to the problem, because most countries don't have the type of infrastructure you need to be able to bring the plastic to the plants. And so it creates a major problem when you try to incinerate. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're squarely focused on building these plants around the world. We're focused in Central and South America at the moment, and the United States as potential markets. And that's what we're going to do. So we're currently funding a roughly $18 million project to build a 60-ton plant. And
I'm going to show how this looks like. I'm going to show now how it looks like before you talk more.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
I love you talking more, but let's show the people, right? There you go. Great video, great plant we're trying to build. Ryan?
That is it. That's the plant. And so that's what we're focused on now. This plant is designed and engineered, and of course, the one that we're going to build is all the components are going to be built in the EU. So some of the stuff's built in Spain, some of it is done in Ireland, some of it is done in Germany, and there are dozens of these plants up and operational around the world.
What can I say? We are the best Germans.
Hey, can't argue with that. German engineering at its finest.
Good.
Just on that subject, Ryan, you brought up a good point. Okay, you have the engineering, but we've had many discussions over the last 12 months, I suppose, about which pyrolysis plant would best suit our needs, which is the most reliable. Now, from what I understand, you and your team board selected this particular operation or this style of engineering because, one, it's been in the market for 25 years, so they're experts in the field, correct?
You got it. This original design, of course, this is a completely modified design. It's been modified over the last 25 years, but essentially it was from that original plant that was put into service 25 years ago. It's still in operation today, but we're going to be getting the more, of course, modernized and all the updates to that plant as it's progressed over the years and all the things that have been learned with pyrolysis and the types of plastics that are needed to be process, and then of course the most modern distillation system, the most modern automation system, and then some of the things that we're looking at to integrate with that on the distillation side is applying machine learning. So you of course get a tremendous amount of data from the product that's created and the types of plastics, the what's called residence time, so how much time that plastic spends in the kiln itself. And then alongside of that, what temperatures are needed in the various stages of the kiln to provide the types of products. And so we're going to apply some machine learning to that. So again, continuing to stay up on the times by modernizing it. And then on the front end, which is where a lot of the logistics and processing happens, because as you can imagine, you've seen plastics in a million different types of format, right? From compact disc to bags or film or containers or baby toys. It doesn't matter. All that plastic has to be broken down into relatively the same type of process, and so it takes a lot of labor to do that. But you can apply artificial intelligence and camera type systems to be able to detect different types of plastic to help you sort along that along that front end of the system to cut down on operational expense, et cetera. So we're looking into those technologies as well.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, as an investor, which I am, which you are, which people on this call are, or potential investors, of course. I mean, this information that this plant, I mean, I showed this businessman earlier today, I showed him the particular video. His first question was, is this in operation? It's been put in the workplace. I said, this company who we will be commissioning has actually been doing it for 25 years. So they've made all the mistakes. They've got 25 years of knowledge and experience to bring it to this point of modern technology today, which we'll be applying. Now, the numbers that we looked at, this has the capacity of 60 tons per day, which I believe could produce around about 51,000 litres, or let's say 320 barrels of pyrolysis oil per day, based on only 300 days per year, correct, Ryan?
That's correct.
Now, why did we select 300 days? Now, obviously,
well, I mean, you've always got some downtime. I think it would be unreasonable to expect that you can run a plant 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year with zero maintenance and downtime. So that includes bad weather, it includes holidays, it includes just general maintenance and cleaning time, and you know, things wear out, so you have to maintain them. So we've, of course, like all of our modeling, I mean, you have to build in those types of variations, and so that's why we've done that.
Yeah, and the reason I just wanted to highlight that, because people ask me why, how did you arrive at those particular statistics? If you're doing that, and I said, well, we've only allowed for 300 days, so we've actually been exceptionally conservative on the productivity side, because normally downtimes of these operations, it may only be 6 or 7%. We've actually allowed closer to 20% downtime for the unexpected. Maybe there's supply chain issues of plastics, that we don't get 60 tons of plastic delivered today, but we only get 45 tons. So there's many variables that can actually happen. But in the end, even based on 300 days at 60 tons per day, we're looking at doing revenues of 600,000 to 700,000 per month, which means after about 3 years, the plant will be pretty much paid off. Correct? Estimation. That's not set in stone.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of variations in this, and of course, I mean, you've got, if you think about it, I mean, there's about 25 employees at any given plant, depending on the size. And so, labor costs are a big part of it. Of course, based on the jurisdiction, taxation, what does the end market look like in terms of what you can fetch for the naphthalene, kerosenes, diesel fuel? Can we enhance it with midstream aggregation and blending? So, and then, power costs. There are a lot of variables here, but and that's why we're focused on Central America and in areas that are densely developed, where we have a lot of access to bulk material and that do have significant diesel infrastructure and are big consumers of diesel product, because that product's changed a lot too. And so because this diesel product is extremely low sulfur, provides a lot of value to markets where has access to marine, because of course all the regulations have changed on the marine type 6 bunker diesel fuels. So that's a great market for us. And again, things will vary a little bit, but these are really close estimations.
And Ryan, one of the questions, of course, coming all the time, and Bill is just asking here the questions, Bill from the UK, how clean is a Polystream, and when you compare it to other recycling solutions in terms of course, we always talk about the emission rates and of course the environmental impact.
Well, I'm not sure what I'm comparing it to, but I'll just sort of talk about pyrolysis in general. As I mentioned, kind of leading into all this, we're not incinerating anything. So we're not creating, of course, we are creating carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, but all of that gas is recirculated and basically burnt within the system. So it never escapes the system. It's completely closed loop. So what that means is when we're pyrolyzing the plastic, when we're heating it up and it's creating these gases, it basically gasifies everything, and the gases that can condense back into liquids, and we sell those liquids. The gases that do not condense, like CO2 and carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, just to be simple, and hydrogen, all of that is recirculated within the system. So the only emissions are really heat emissions, because of course we are burning and heating things. But none of that escapes our closed loop system. So when you compare it to things, there are not many systems that are as clean. And if they are, they're very expensive, because again, you have to scrub all of the exhaust and emissions that are created through that process. Just like the coal burning process today, there are a tremendous amount of scrubbers and cleaning systems, but those are expensive to operate.
We've also discussed, Ryan, with certain players in this area regarding carbon credits, so that we'll be engaged with certain proprietary operators where we can offset, if there's any carbons produced, we could actually offset that with different joint ventures with different groups which are actually showing interest in that with us already. So we're going to be as green as possible. And in fact, we're green just by recycling the plastic in the first place, and by capturing all the emissions and reusing those gases and different things. So,
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so we're essentially diverting the plastic that would otherwise end up in landfills and have to be broken down over hundreds of years. So instead of just throwing this plastic away, which has tremendous value, I mean, you see how much oil or diesel is created from from a site per day. It's pretty significant. So if we can divert that out of landfills and recycle it, for every barrel that we create of product, that's a barrel of oil that doesn't have to be produced out of the ground. So when you think about being green, I mean, I come from a traditional oil and gas background. So I made a living for 17, 18 years and still have oil production today, of course. So almost 20 years of production. My job was to find oil and produce it and sell it for a profit. But so I'm essentially competing with the oil companies by doing this. But again, the problem is so large, the oil market's really not going to see this until this becomes global, right? Because until this reaches every municipality, every local market, we're not going to see the impact of this, because our problem is so large. I mean, we're still throwing away 90+% of all the plastic that we consume or that we use. So I think we're doing a great thing for the environment, and this is, I think, the best solution, the most efficient solution to the plastics problem.
Absolutely, and that's what I always say is, like, everybody really who's on a call, everybody who is just basically sharing this message, I mean, you really should share this message, because again, it's only be able for a lot of people, basically the power of a lot of people pulling, of course, the money into it, so that we can do these things. And at the end, what do you get? Well, you obviously will get really great benefits from it, but not only that you're going to make money, but also you're helping the environment. And if you wait until governments are doing it, I don't know how long we're going to wait. And if we wait, if we just wait, sit there and wait, not many things are going to change. And this is like, when you look at this whole thing, which just has started now, maybe 2 years ago, with that lady from that girl, actually, that school girl from Norway or Sweden, right? When did it start with Creator movement? Like 2 years ago. And how big this is, how much is now being impacted, sometimes a little bit, okay, so edgy, exaggerated, but of course, you got to also exaggerate sometimes in order to shift things, in order to make things happen, and that's only going to be available. So when you really, like, for me, it's like I'm getting so passionate about it, because I mean, just when we started with this project, obviously, this is just what it's was mid-November 2018. Things have totally 100% changed in terms of the whole world, how they look at plastics. Everything has changed, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
we
you're seeing a lot
know.
more exposure in this space. Yeah.
You had no idea, no forecast that so much is going to change, correct?
No doubt. It's changed our world. It's changed our whole industry just in the last 12 to 18 months.
And it goes beyond just the environmental impact. It's actually the supply chain. I was talking to this businessman, what he got really excited about in many of these developing countries, which he's engaged with business already, is that you're monetizing plastic. At the moment, it's just rubbish. People discard it. Aluminium cans may have a recycling rate of over 96%, 97% because it's monetized. This is essentially what we're doing with this operation, Ryan. We're actually monetizing rubbish. So the whole consciousness of people in communities, lower incomes, maybe people, lower income people, disadvantaged people, they'll be able to generate another income source. And we see people, even in modern cities around the world, whether they're in Frankfurt, whether in Melbourne, Sydney, Australia, you see people going through bins picking up plastic because it has value. So essentially, this is what we're doing. So we're going to be able to put money on the table for people, which is actually very, very important because they are an intricate part of the supply chain as well. They're at the beginning part. So the community are going to win, and on the external part of the supply chain, on the distilling of the diesel and other condensates, of course, investors and other people are going to get the benefit of that. So it's really a holistic type solution to this plastic waste. I mean, I love the concept of giving opportunity to ordinary people out there to have a supplementary income through collecting and cleaning up the environment.
Yeah, and Bill, you just touch on that. Like Bill Wilmot has a question here. I understand your opening discussion with ocean cleanup companies. Is it better to take plastic from ocean as opposed to taking from landfill? But you, Bill, you were just talking about no, also from landfill. Maybe Ryan, you want to touch on that a little bit?
So a couple of things. Plastic from the ocean has an advantage and a disadvantage. It has the advantage of course, having been cleaned from from having been pulled from the ocean. But the disadvantage is a lot of times the plastic is in very small, format. So you can't really determine what type of plastic it is. So it's very, very hard to sort. And so you have to just assume based on data that's out in the market, how much is type 1 or type 3, because you may end up with PVC. And some of that's okay in the system. It can handle up to 2 or 3% PVC without major problems, or PET without major problems. But preferably, and there of course is a huge issue with logistics from getting, from ocean cleanups as well. So you have to have the infrastructure to be able to tie that in. Ocean cleanup companies now are just simply putting it into landfills. But what we want to be able to do is capture plastic before it gets to the landfill. But so the infrastructure is there to get the plastic from people's homes and from rural parts or even urban parts of the world, and collect them into one central location. So we want to tie into that infrastructure because that's the best place to sort the plastic. Obviously, we don't want to have to try to pull things out of the landfill. It's too late. So those are just a couple of points there on that. But we are working with ocean cleanup companies. Yeah, go ahead.
Ryan, you was just you just made me think about you just said like the ocean clean companies, because you did a lot of research into it. They actually just cleaning it up from the ocean, put it in the landfill. Well, that's not really helping either, right?
It's helping the oceans, but it's not really solving the overall problem, right? I mean, it's one thing to clean up the ocean. It's another thing to actually stop the plastic from going in the ocean. So we have multiple problems here. The problem is that people don't give value to it in a lot of countries and just throw it over the fence. It ends up in these little rivers, and these rivers will flood or just evacuate into the ocean. And then we've got to clean up the ocean. So that's a separate problem. And then what do we do with that plastic because there's no infrastructure? Well, let's just dump it in a landfill, or some of it may be recycled, but not very much. And so we're creating a partnership. In fact, I've got a call next week with the group that we've signed the letter of intent with to just have a more open discussion and dialogue about how we move the JV forward. And this was really about sharing ideas, how we can help them by utilizing our technology, and how they can help us with what they're seeing in the marketplace. Because again, we're looking at two different parts of the problem. We're looking at it from a land issue and how do we create value. They're looking at it from an ocean cleanup and environmental perspective. And so they're very well tied into municipalities, because who's buying their boats? Is the investor investing in a boat for a feel good? No, that's usually municipalities, because they want to encourage tourism and travel in their particular location. So they want to have clean oceans. And so they'll buy these vessels to clean up around their bays and inlets and various things. But for us, this is about, we have to make money from it. But of course, we're doing good along the way because we're diverting all this plastic out of landfills back into real valuable assets.
Because the
Absolutely.
other situation is that there's not one blueprint for each location. I mean, it's demographically each feasibility study. You may be sorting plastic from here. I mean, it'll be different. It'll be many variables, but in principle, the concept will be the same. But the supply chain may have to be tweaked depending on whether it's landfill, seafill, supply, etc., and infrastructure in those particular regions in these developing countries. But our meeting at the end of this month with a particular government should be very exciting. And I mean, the first step there, of course, is they know what plant we have, and of course, it's a feasibility study how that would be brought in and implemented in that particular region. Which region would be best suited, of course. So there's many variables there, Ryan, as you've said.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so we have to look at each location and treat it as its own project because there are so many different pieces. And the worst thing you can do is overbuild a plant or underbuild a plant. So you have to understand what type of materials are available and what the sorting and processing is like on the front end, because you don't want to starve the system because you've overpaid for it. At the same point in time, you want to make sure you have the capacity. You don't want to end up building a second plant because you do get efficiencies by speccing it out properly on the front end. So you get some sort of economies of scale, if you will, by building it out correctly.
So it's a huge project that people just understand it. That is not something you do from today to tomorrow. And people are asking me all the time, well, how long is this going to be? And when is the plan done? And so on. It takes time. This is a solid, huge project. Again, plastic will be there all the time, will be there in whatever years. So this is a long-term sustainable, and this is because this is why you do it, because you wouldn't do it if it wouldn't be sustainable, if it wouldn't be profitable. Most certainly not. So project, so it's amazing. And once, of course, the first one is built, we can replicate out of that other plants all around the world. But it's a huge project. It's not something like, okay, so like the first project we did, which is you bought you bought a Raccoon Bend, you bought the existing oil field, which is already existing production. That's buying it, it's pumping already. That's an easy project, correct?
Right. Yeah, big difference, right? It's not like you can go to our website and choose pyrolysis plant A, B, or C. We've got 4 major contractors, and we probably got about 12 to 14 providers of technical equipment and engineering based assets that'll all tie into this. So it's just a consortium of the best in class technologies to build one plant to make it all work. And they've all been put together before. They've built dozens of plants together as a consortium. And so we're going to be leveraging that. This is not a theoretical project, but it's also, like you say, it's not a simple one because there are a lot of moving parts and pieces to it. So it's got to be spec'd out correctly.
It's much easier to buy oil. It's much easier to buy oil and gas, plant it, and sell it to the market, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that was simple compared to this. Yeah, that was easy.
Actually, you made a very good point last week in our meeting too, Ryan, that you brought up. That, I mean, remember correctly, I think you used to own several oil drilling rigs, correct? Natural gas and oil.
Yeah, 2 land rigs, and I had a rig that would float on water and drill in a lake.
The point I'm actually coming to is that this is why you really have to do your research and market analysis of what equipment you're buying, what type of steel is used, because I'm sure if you're drilling something down 2,000 or 3,000, 5,000 feet, if you decide to take shortcuts and buy cheaper material, cheaper drilling pipes, all of a sudden it snaps off 2,000 feet down. You're better off buying the quality. You're better off buying material that's been certified, that the metal content that's been produced from is actually certified by engineers. They're guaranteeing what it's made from. So you get the quality of work, so you don't have the downtime. Because when something like that happens, I mean, if you're down for a month because a major component's broken, that sabotages all the profits, of course. And in business, you don't want to have that happen. So up front, yes, it's a large investment, but if you buy it right and do your research right and buy quality, not just the engineering side, but also the material used in that machinery, like you used to do from your experience on the oil rigs, if you go cheap, you'll pay the price somewhere down the road.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, because this is a petroleum based system, or not based system, but because you're running and heating petroleum and using various types of products, you end up with some chlorides in there because of the PVC. You've got a lot of chemical exposure to all these types of metals. So metallurgy is critical in every piece of this design and engineering of this system. So choosing a company that would design and build and manufacture this out of China, where they can certify it all they want, but the question is, do you even trust the certifications? So this is why we've chosen the manufacturers that we have chosen, because we know the engineering's been done and we can trust the certifications. And this is equipment that's going to last decades and decades, not, you know, sort of wear out or have corrosion issues 2 years down the road. So this is a critical piece of it. But like you say, you get what you pay for. And in this case, we're building something that's, you know, going to be a legacy asset for people.
Essentially, it lasts like a big Mercedes.
I suppose in diplomatic terms, what you're really saying is, I'm not against Hyundai, but you're comparing a Hyundai system to a Mercedes system in one respect. In many areas, that being, I probably
have nothing
saying that, but you know my point with quality control,
Yeah.
performance, and all these other things, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes I can be politically incorrect, but nonetheless, my point should be understood.
Yeah, and that is why, of course, when we look at, of course, the next slide here, that the project, of course, with the listings, and the project, of course, with the whole project where we have come so far. And we just basically today reduced again these bonuses, which we gave out. So 5% they have been reduced. What does it mean for you? Well, obviously, as we move ahead with the project, of course, gets funded. The project buys more assets. The project gets basically the underlying asset, it's getting more, and therefore we see what we have here on this slide, that basically we have launched in a very conceptual state, and now we are not anymore in so much of a conceptual state. We have already purchased asset, and now we are very well and truly on the way on, of course, the second project. So this is just the timeline for people that they understand. Well, sometimes we want to have things earlier, but yet then, of course, it's going to take a little bit more time than expected. That's actually almost every time the case, isn't it?
Everything takes a little longer than you expect. But I will say this, you know, if there are people on this call or people listening to this call and are thinking, well, geez, I'll just wait till they build the plant and then I'll get involved. I would say to you, it's probably going to be a bit too late at that point, because I think past the stage that we reach and build our first plant, financing is not going to be an issue. We're going to be on building multiple plants around in various jurisdictions, and it may be too late, or certainly the price will not be where it is today. I will say that. But
and what you really are saying there is, just for people, is that it becomes a dilution issue. You don't want to keep diluting this particular asset that people have put money into, of course. So this might be closed off. And then another one in the future could be opened up, as an example, Ryan, in one, as a suggestion.
Could possibly be, but you know, as we're adding value to this, of course, the value of the company increases, and thus the share price. So we're moving pretty quickly now. So please, if you have any questions, shoot them out to us. Get involved.
Yeah, and especially, of course, when you look at also, so let's say, you know, a lot of people are working, they're having one job, they're looking for other opportunities. We have certainly a great opportunity here with this project that maybe could be a future side income for you. You may are deciding to market the products and services. Whatever you want to do, you always have to question or ask yourself the question, well, if you're just working on a job and you're really looking for something else, but you don't know, do you want to risk basically the financial future by having all of your income in one place, or isn't it better to actually diversify? And you know, so such things you have to look at. And for me, certainly that is, I'm totally full on. I'm very excited in this project, and I try to tell how big this really is to other people, because usually they don't have the opportunity to get in such projects like this involved. I mean, come on, where do you have this possibility to get in a project like this? You don't. You get in, you may learn about it when, again, as you said, we already, like like big time on the way. And of course, it's when you in the early days when, of course, the biggest gains can be really made out of it. And of course, we have here the certificate when you buy into the project, which you actually do get when you hold your store. So that's all signed off by a lawyer, etc. So it's really, really exciting. And Lesiba here from Africa, South Africa, he just said it's just excited and definitely a great project. So you have basically two choices. You can either come on board, become a customer, meaning you buy any of the products we presented, gold or silver, or you buy into store and this amazing idea, or you become an affiliate and you actually wish to market the products and services. You want to share the message with other people. And there you have then different ways how to buy in. And we have the small packages, and then we have the big packages. Small packages, it's not, I mean, come on, from as tiny as 99 euros onwards. And what do you get? Well, you get, of course, the platform, the affiliate platform, etc. That's really to start off your business, and as a customer you can buy in from as little as 50 euro. But those are the small packages. Up from 390 euro on, we have a little bit of a higher, of course, bonus there on the store side. So that is going to be gradually being reduced from month to month, or sometimes every 60 days, until, of course, the bonus is taken away. So that is a huge advantage. Again, it all has to do with the price right now being way cheaper than it will be in the future based on all the asset valuation. But then, of course, we have the higher packages from 9,000 euros on up to 1 million or higher. That's what we wanted to just go through today. The time really to build passive income, build wealth, diversify, get in a project like this is actually now. So again, you don't have to take advantage basically of our business, but you may have, or you may be actually thinking, well, if I don't join this business, if I don't join this opportunity, if I don't join this business, how risky is it to basically depend on my boss for a huge income raise? Or how is it to depend on one income source if I cannot hardly make months end now? So this may be your solution for it. So with that, Ryan, I want to thank you. I want to, of course, thank you, Bill. We are on the hour, so we don't want to too much overwhelm the people with all this information, but I really appreciate you guys coming on the call and showing face.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Claudia. And just a bit of an update, Claudia. As you know, I'll be heading to Kampala, Uganda on Thursday for a couple of days. Got some meetings there, then probably Kenya, Nairobi on the way back to Dubai. So anyone that has people in those regions, make sure you find out where the meeting is going to be held and come and see us. And we look forward to getting down to South Africa a little bit later on in the year. We couldn't make it this particular schedule. So with that, thanks, Claudia, thanks, Ryan, and thanks everyone for joining us on this particular call.
Thank you, and goodbye.